Hello and welcome to the Orthodox View, where we discuss latest religious news from an Orthodox Christian perspective. I am its host, Philip Champion. At the end of each year, it is customary to look back and evaluate the results. We have decided not to deviate from this tradition and recall the 10 main events in Russia and other countries, which, from our point of view, have had a significant impact on the Christian world. Metropolitan Onufry and Ukraine. What happens in that country is often important for the rest of us. World Orthodoxy is on the verge of a schism, and this process largely depends on what is happening in Ukraine, and, of course, on the actions of the head of the Canonical Church. In 2021, pressure on the Canonical Church continued on the part of the authorities and schismatics from the so-called Orthodox Church of Ukraine. Under such challenging conditions, Metropolitan Onufry managed to consolidate the faithful. 350,000 people came to the procession of the cross in Kiev on the day of the baptism of Rus. The authority of Metropolitan Onufry is unshakable. The head of the Ukrainian Church occupies top positions in all rankings of influence, leaving behind other religious leaders of the country. Montenegro and schismatics. The events in this country are very similar to the situation in Ukraine. We've got the same unrecognized schismatic Montenegrin church, as well as the activity of groups that demand the transfer of monasteries and church property to their organization and receive support from one of the political forces. In 2021, the culmination of events occurred during the enthronement of the new Montenegrin Metropolitan Ioanniki in the city of Cetinje. The entrances to the city were blocked, and the head of the Serbian church, Patriarch Porphyry, was forced to arrive in Cetinje by helicopter. He was accompanied to the place of the enthronement of Metropolitan Ioanniki by special forces, soldiers, and covered with body armor protecting him from a possible sniper bullet. Nevertheless, despite the efforts of the Montenegrin schismatics, enthronement of Metropolitan Ioanniki completed successfully. Another victory for the Serbian Church was the final decision of the ownership of the Cetinje monastery. In 2021, the new authorities of Montenegro confirmed the rights of the Serbian Church to the monastery building. The visit of Patriarch Bartholomew to the United States. The trip of the Patriarch of Constantinople to the United States took place in October of 2021. Patriarch Bartholomew hadn't visited the US for over 10 years, so there was a lot of attention drawn to it from all over the world. He almost immediately held a meeting with the American President Joe Biden, and here, not only the essence of their negotiations, but also the form is important. Patriarch Bartholomew called Biden our president and said that the United States is a wonderful country with the best leadership. He thus demonstrated the main guidelines for the Patriarchate of Constantinople. It must assist the US interests in any endeavors. This is not surprising, considering that the Greek diaspora in this country is the main sponsor of the Fanar. In July of 2021, Metropolitan Hilarion of Volokholamsk, chairman of the Moscow Patriarchate's Department for External Church Relations, spoke at the International Religious Freedom Summit in Washington, D.C. He pinpointed several countries in the Middle East, Africa, and Europe where Christians face serious persecution. In particular, Christians face persecution and their numbers are declining throughout the Middle East, including in Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and Libya. Unfortunately, such a situation is typical in countries where the centuries-old balance between religious communities has been violated, including by the violent regime change. Vladika Hilarion also told the crowd about the deplorable situation in Ukraine today, where the largest religious organization, which unites millions of Ukrainians under the leadership of His Beatitude Metropolitan Onufry of Kiev and all Ukraine, is deprived of its rights by state and local authorities and is persecuted by schismatics who violently seize churches and physically assault both clergy and laity alike. In conclusion, Metropolitan Hilarion called for the creation of a common front for the protection of the rights of believers in all countries of the world where these rights are violated. In 2021, theology in Russia was included in the list of academic subjects. Theology was attributed to the field of social and humanitarian sciences and will include 3 specialties: theoretical theology, historical theology, and practical theology. Each of these specialties is provided for 3 different religions: Orthodoxy, Islam, and Judaism. Christianity has once again become the most persecuted religion in the world. 2021 was marked by dire numbers. More than 10 Christians are killed every minute in Africa, and the international community does not respond in any way. In the future, disagreement with anti-Christian ideas may become a pretext for persecutions against Christians in many countries. This statement was made by His Holiness Patriarch Kirill of Moscow and all Russia. His Holiness said the following: "We see that today ideas and concepts that directly contradict God's truth have begun to be accepted as mandatory in the legislative and political practice of many countries. For example, the biblical teaching about a human being, their dignity and relationships with other people. It is easy to foresee that in a number of countries, disloyalty to such ideas may very soon entail a corresponding reaction of the relentless machine of coercion. Christians may lose Jerusalem. The end of 2021 was characterized by an increased pressure on Christians in the Holy City. Jerusalem leaders of various denominations have decided to launch an international informational campaign to publicize the attacks on Christians. Patriarch Theophilus of the Orthodox Church of Jerusalem says that since 2012, countless crimes have been committed against Christians, including countless incidents of physical and verbal assaults against priests and other clergy, attacks on Christian churches with holy sites regularly vandalized and desecrated, and an ongoing intimidation of local Christians who simply seek to worship freely and go about their daily lives. As a result, Christians went to a protest at the Jaffa Gate. Patriarch Theophilus, together with the spiritual leaders of Catholic, Anglicans, and Armenians in the Holy Land, called on politicians to restore order. They were supported by Christians from all over the world. 2021 was the year of constant meetings of Pope Francis with foreign leaders. In total, he held over 20 meetings. Not every statesman can boast of such an active foreign policy activity. The need to provide aid to refugees became the cornerstone of almost all of his meetings. In 2021, the number of refugees received by Europe increased by 15% in comparison to 2020. However, European unity on migration is shattered. The EU countries have tightened migration norms. They reduced the length of time stay of candidates waiting for a refugee status and decreased the amount of welfare benefits. Many countries have refused to accept migrants altogether. The Russian Orthodox Church has once again acted as a peacemaker in the military conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Patriarch Kirill invited the spiritual leaders of the two countries to Moscow. He noted that for the Azerbaijani and Armenian peoples, there is no other future than living together. And today it is especially important to restore people's trust in each other, to learn to perceive a neighbor with respect and readiness for mutual assistance. The religious leaders gathered in Moscow had agreed to promote the reconciliation of the peoples of Azerbaijan and Armenia. In 2021, the Department for External Church Relations of the Moscow Patriarchate had launched a new website, mospat.ru. We publish articles in 11 foreign languages and follow religious events from all over the world. We're grateful to all our readers and viewers for their feedback and interest. Stay tuned in 2022. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.